Before I get into my sermon for today and the message for today, I want to give you a little glimpse of motherhood. It is Mother's Day, but today I do want you to know that we're not just celebrating mothers, we're celebrating all women. And the reason for that is because some of you may not have children of your own, or some of you may be living with a mother that has passed on. And we want to honor all of you. You're all mothers in some way. I was joking with Rachel earlier, she's a dog mom. So happy Mother's Day to her too. She has 2 beautiful dogs that she takes care of, and she's a dog mom, and that's okay. We all walk this walk a little bit differently, and she happens to do that, but she's also been a spiritual mom to a bunch of teenage girls, and I appreciate her for that. And there's a lot of you that have done that. But I want to give you a little glimpse into motherhood, and I found these. And this says, when you're on a budget, so you start cutting your kid's hair. You just throw that bowl on top, and then you just cut around it, all right? All right, and it says, me calling my husband to let him know I got all 3 kids to bed by 7:30 p.m., and he says, I won. Looks a little defeated, but the kids catch you in the kitchen and say, what's in your mouth? And you're standing there like, nothing. True story, I used to babysit a little girl that I would be eating Oreos or something, and she would come up and she'd be like, what are you eating? And I'm like, it's an Oreo. And she'd be like, I like those. And I wouldn't say anything, I would just sit there, and she'd go, my mom lets me eat those at home. I'm like, does she? She's like, yeah, they're my favorite, I really like them. And then I would say, do you want one? And she would go, okay. All right, next one. When the baby falls asleep on you and you try to move them to the crib. I don't know if you remember doing that, some of you that have older kids, but I remember like the kids would fall asleep and you'd be like, I remember put them in bed. Don't move a muscle. Don't anybody make a sound. And you would try very carefully get them back in bed. And you have a candy wrapper that makes that crinkle sound, and this is what all the kids look like all of a sudden around you. Right? How I feel when my kids won't eat their food. Then go ahead and starve. All right? And this is the last one, when I finally get to leave the house without the kids. Anybody been there? Okay. Thankfully, mine now are 13 and 18, so I get to leave the house whenever I want, and it is wonderful. We go on day dates a lot, which is something we never got to do. When they were younger, we'll go on a date, just like, hey, we're going to McDonald's. We'll bring you guys back something later. All right, so we go and get our date time in, and that's the wonderful thing about having grown-up kids. The wonderful thing about when they're babies is you get to do what Loretta's doing right now, and you get to squish them and hold them and just pat them. And they smell. There's a baby smell. Am I right? Is there a baby smell? Ariana the other day was sitting next to me, and she kind of snuggled up next to me, and I went, oh, you smell like a baby. And I kept going, it's just like, stop being weird. But we love that baby smell. But I love being a mother, and I want to read something to you for Mother's Day. And it says a prayer for Mother's Day. It says, Lord, we remember the mothers who have gone before us. For their love, sacrifice, struggle, and joy, we thank you. Lord, we remember the mothers of Scripture who are a part of our story as we are a part of your story. For their courage, their faith, their love, and their fierceness, we thank you. Lord, we remember those who have not given birth to us but are mothers to us. For their gift of themselves that they have given, we thank you. For the women who struggle with fertility, for those women whose society labels as less in their childlessness, for those women who have lost children, for their tears, for their strength, for their wisdom, and for their lives, we thank you. I read that and I thought, what a beautiful thing, because on Mother's Day, you hear a lot about women who struggle because they don't have maybe children of their own, and they tried and they can't. My sister was one that for years they tried to have a child and they could not, and she ended up adopting 3 awesome kids. I love these kids. They are the most wild, beautiful, loving kids, and they couldn't look any more like my sister and her husband if they tried. It was just a God thing that but I know that she had that struggle for many years. And it was so hard to watch other people go through that. And Mother's Day was always a hard time for her. But she's blessed today to be sitting at her church. She's preaching at her church today with her 3 kids sitting there. But we want to honor all women today. So before you leave today, we do have a gift for all the women here. Not just the mothers, but all the women here, because you all have a mother, so you qualify, right? You've got one somewhere. But today I want to talk to you about when the bloom fades. If I had a text for today, it would be this, John 15, 1 through 2. So if you have your Bibles, there's Bibles in front of all of you. I'm just putting that out there. We keep them in almost every seat there, so you do have a Bible. John 15, 1 through 2. When you get there, yell, woo! Oh, we got some whoos already. Okay? You know your Bible. You know right where to turn, don't you? We got a got or done over here. Anybody got a got or did? Do we have a got or did? All right. John 15, 1 through 2. I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch that doesn't bear fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. My title today is when the bloom fades, even greater things happen. A lot of times when we see the blooms of spring, how many of you love spring? I get so tired of the winter and the snow, and somebody keeps shaking that snow globe. I'm not pointing any fingers, but snow keeps coming back, and I'm like, what? I should have never given her that snow globe. But the snow is there, and the trees look bare and empty. And everything is gray or black or white, and that's about it. That's the colors you get for winter, right? And so I love when spring comes. And my favorite are these like purple and pink trees that you see. You see a couple in town. I know in Brownsburg, they're loaded with them. I don't know what those trees are called, but they're gorgeous. And the blooms come, and you're like, yes, this is it. It's gonna be warm. And I love seeing all that color, and the grass starts to get green, and it's beautiful. What happens within about 2 to 3 weeks to those blooms, though? They're gone. They don't stay all summer. Just a couple weeks, you just get that real green, and then you get the green, and that's pretty, but you don't get that full effect of those blooms. And so, as a mom, we're always looking to make flowers bloom in our house, so to speak. And the way that I'm talking about that is this: when we look at the examples around us, and we try to make everything bloom in our home by making it look like the magazine. And we get those magazines like Better Homes and Garden and all that. I don't know why I get Better Homes and Garden every month, and I've never ordered that magazine in my life. But I get it every month, and half the time I don't even look at it because I'm like, that does not look like my house. But we see that, we think if we could make our house look like the magazine, just everything would be in bloom. It would be so nice. And we look at the friends around us. I remember specifically in Arkansas, going to a friend's house. Now, when we first moved there, we lived in this teeny tiny little house. It was very, very small. And it was an okay house. It was all right. But I went to my friend's house one night. You know, we'd never been to their house. They invited us over, and I was like, oh, you live in a mansion. It's beautiful. And I walked in, and like you could lick their floors if you wanted. I don't know why you would want to, but if you did want to, you could, and you wouldn't get anything. Everything was just polished, and stainless steel, everything was gorgeous and beautiful. And she's like, we have to see my daughter's room. We did something in my daughter's room, and I was like, okay, that's where the mess will be. Because I have a daughter that age, and I can't walk in her room right now. And that's what I was thinking as I went to this daughter's room, and I go in the daughter's room, and I'm like, does she have anything? There's nothing here, right? And everything was pristine, and beautiful and gorgeous. I thought, that's not what my house looks like. In fact, you guys are all coming over tomorrow for the Bad Girls of the Bible study. So I will spend all day tomorrow and probably part of tonight cleaning it to make sure that you can walk across my floor, not lick it. You just want to walk across it, right? Because I'm not that way. I don't have the gift of, I was telling Fran, I don't have the gift of hospitality. I don't have napkin rings and fancy things like that, because I'm like those paper towels don't fit in there really well. And so, that's just me. I'm like, the kids come home and they're like, what are we making for dinner? I'm like, I don't know, microwave something. That this is a regular conversation at our house, right? Am I alone in this? Okay, good, thank you. Let's get worried. But I think to myself sometimes, if I could have a house like that, then everything would be great. If my girls cleaned their rooms like that, and then clean mine like that, that would be awesome, right? She's looking at me, she's like, your room's a mess. If only I had more time. If I had more time, I could spend all this time with my daughters, making sure they grew up into the special woman of God. We study the Bible together every single afternoon and evening, and even in the morning when we wake up. And I had a friend who spoke at a women's conference, and she got up and she said, when I was growing up, every time I walked out the front door, my mom and dad would both grab me and they would surround me and they would pray for my protection and that I would have a good day every time I just walked out the front door. I was like, wow, that's nice. My mom would be like, where are you going? All right. Well, don't be gone too late. That was the difference. So I couldn't relate to any of that because that's not me. That's not who I am. That's not my bloom. That's not how I bloom. And so if the next one is, if I didn't have to deal with this pain, if I didn't have to deal with this pain, I could bloom. Things would be great. If I didn't have to deal with this emotional pain or this physical pain, I don't know if any of you, I know some of you do struggle with chronic pain. And we've battled in our house with chronic pain for years. And I believe that the Lord has healed Pastor Aaron. We haven't had back pain in going on 3-4 weeks now. And we went through 7-8 years of daily pain. Never having one day without pain. It was just like, it's not as bad today. And he's going on 3 weeks with 0 back pain. But I know what it's like to deal with that. I know what it's like to deal with chronic migraines. Any migraine sufferers out there? Migraines are the devil. They really are. They are the worst pain that I have ever had in my life. I've been to the hospital several times with them. Aaron has also been to the hospital several times with them. I know when I get to the hospital, I say, here's what you need. You need the Benadryl and the Toradol. Give me a shot and I'll go home. And I've had them that often. And the blooms that we anticipate all that time are gone in just a short while. You may get things to happen really well for just a short time. All right, we go through periods in our life where things go really, really well. But what then? What happens when the bloom fades? Or if you never even get the bloom? Now, I brought these up here with me today. Anybody remember these? These poor things. These are from Easter. And thankfully Joyce pulled off the brown blooms yesterday. They were looking pretty sad. But just because there's no blooms left on these plants, are they still alive? So have they outlived their usefulness yet? What happens if I plant these in the ground? Somebody who knows gardening, because I don't know anything about gardening. Pamela, what happens? They'll come back. They'll come back. And Joyce said they may come back stronger than they even were. They'll multiply. I didn't know they multiplied. See, I know. Here's my plant story. Several years ago, Well, a lot of years ago, Allie was about 2 years old, and I worked at the district office for the Assemblies of God in Indiana. And I was hired by Brother David Delp, who was in charge of Christian education and men's ministry and things like that. And when he hired me, he said, one of the things that I would like you to do is just make sure you water this plant. Take care of that for me, because he's gone a lot out of the office. I said, okay, I could do that. I watered it every day. And the thing died in like 3 weeks of me working there. And he calls me into his office, and he's like, what happened to my plant? I don't know, I watered it. And he said, I've had this plant for 6 years. And you've been here for 3 weeks. And I was like, that's not my gifting. But these here are actually still alive. And you can tell the leaves aren't brown. So these are still alive, so we can still plant these, and they will come up and be even better than they were before. You what? She planted them, they died. There's no hope. But you know what comes after? You have a fruit tree. After the bloom fades, what comes? The fruit. Why is that important? That's the valuable part, right? You can't sell those blooms in a store and make anything, right? But you can sell those apples, or oranges, or lemons, or whatever else grows on trees. Grapes? Do grapes grow on trees? They grow out of vine. So this is how much I know about gardening right here. But the valuable part comes after the prettiest part has faded. So even if you've lost your bloom, you haven't lost your value. You may not have what the mom next to you has. You may not have the picture perfect home. You may not be the Proverbs 31 woman. We talked about this, didn't we? A couple years ago I preached my whole Mother's Day sermon was the Proverbs 31 woman doesn't exist. And it's true. The Proverbs 31 woman was an example. She wasn't an actual person that they were writing about. She was an example. And if you read the scriptures before that, she was talking to her son. Now listen, moms, when you are looking for someone for your son, she's got to be pretty perfect, right? And so she was, and these are all great things to live up to, but we can't do all the things that Proverbs 31 woman did. She never slept. If you look at the scripture, she stays up late. She gets up early before the sun rises. She stays up late into the night, sewing the clothes and doing all the things. She does everything. And that's wonderful, but you know what? That's not who we all are. Because some of us are gifted in different things, right? I am not gifted in hospitality. Fran is. She pulled together that dinner like it was nothing. She did a fantastic job. It was cleaned up in like 20 minutes, I think. Everything was cleaned and put away. And she was a great organizer. Joyce helped with that. And the two of them together, I was like, you guys should just do all the dinners. And they're like, no. They did a fantastic job because that's their gifting. And I know that that's not mine. So I'm like, I will support you. The value is the fruit. And what is the fruit? When we're coming closer to God, what is the fruit? The fruit of the Spirit is, give me one. What is the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace. All right. So we had a kids song, so I can tell them all to you because I'm wearing a kids song. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. All of those things come in our life after the bloom fades. After all the trials that refine us is when that fruit comes. Ruth in the Bible. How many of you remember the story of Ruth? Anybody know the story of Ruth? Ruth lived a life full of bloom, didn't she? She had a husband, she had a mother and a father-in-law, she had a sister and brother-in-law, she had all of this family, and then famine comes. And the father-in-law dies, then her husband dies, her brother-in-law dies, was left with these 3 women. In Ruth 1, if you've got your Bible still, Ruth 1, verse 3. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah, and the other Ruth. Not to be confused with Orpah. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died. And Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. The blooms had faded away. She lost her husband. She experienced a loss even greater than what it would be today. Because in those times, it wasn't a place for working women. So when she lost her husband, she lost her livelihood as well. It would have been a very shallow, scary existence. Because she follows her mother-in-law, and I'm going to skip over a lot of that there, but she follows her mother-in-law to a place where the food was easier to access. But she survived by gathering the leftovers of the grain that was left by people working the fields. If you know when people are working, they're not going to leave a bunch of good stuff. So when she first started there, she's gathering up just what she could and doing what she could to provide for herself and her mother-in-law. She was praying and hoping it wouldn't be all gone as the others came to do the same. There were other people there besides her gathering and doing the same thing. So you probably had to get out there pretty quickly and work very hard to get this grain just so she could feed herself. But God was looking out for her. He knew her story wasn't over. Maybe the bloom had faded, but the story wasn't over. This is what a lily looks like. I'll try to move this a little bit. With a bloom on it. And this again one day will look like this. But she was at this point where everything had faded, but it wasn't over for her yet. There was still a life that God had for her. There was still a plan He had for her. Luke 12:27 says, "Observe the lilies, how they grow. They neither labor nor spin, and yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was as beautifully dressed as one of these." Basically, if we were to Message Bible this, I don't know, modern English it, lilies don't do anything. They sit there and they look pretty, and they might give off a little oxygen, but they're not doing anything for the Lord. And yet He still takes care of them and makes them beautiful and makes them multiply and to be there for us to look at. He does all of that with something that doesn't do anything for Him. And He wants to do something in your life. He wants to protect you and love you even more than the flowers that He makes grow, and they don't have a purpose other than giving off some beauty and some oxygen. Ruth may have lost her bloom, but the fruit was about to appear. In Ruth 4, verse 13, "So Boaz took Ruth and she became his wife, and when he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The woman said to Naomi, 'Praise be to the Lord, who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth.' Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The woman living there said, 'Naomi has a son,' and they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. Who came through the lineage of David? Jesus. Now I saw this example, and this is totally stolen from the internet, but I need some help. Who's got a $5 bill or a $10 bill? I'm not going to take it from you. If I got a $5 or $10 bill, okay? Come on up here. I wasn't going to tell you that until you got it out. Now, some of you have seen this, but I want to, the point of this was so powerful that I want to share this. All right, what do you got? A 5, okay. And you want this back. You want this back. Okay. I'm just gonna crumble this up a little bit. Still want it? Do you still want it? I'm stomping on it. Okay, 30 shoes, no kidding. So if I do this, why do you want it back? It's still valuable. If I tear it in half, no, I'm just kidding. So even with it being crinkled, crumbled, stepped on, pretty much abused, you still want this because it still has value. You can still take this to the store. I'm trying to straighten it. I'm trying to make it nice and pretty. But you can still take that to the store and spend it. There you go. Listen, just because you've been through some battles and you've been through some hard stuff, you've faced every trial, you've gone through everything that you can go through. How many feel like you've gone through about every trial that there is to go through? All right? You've gone through every trial. Things have happened to you that nobody knows. Things have happened to you that everybody knows, and it was made public, and it was a big display. It was hurtful, it was embarrassing, it was humiliating. Some of you have struggled week to week, paycheck to paycheck, just to keep things going, to keep food on the table, and you're tired. You still haven't lost your value. Some of us have been abused. Some of us have been stepped on like I stepped on that dollar, and it's just, you've been stepped on harder than that. In fact, you feel like you've had a knife thrown in there a couple of times too. Maybe it was emotional. Maybe it was emotional and somebody just degraded you to the point that you feel worthless. You still have value. Just because your bloom may have faded doesn't mean that you're done. It doesn't mean that your life doesn't have value. The fruit is on its way, and the greater things are yet to come, if we trust in Him. Listen, I could go through trial after trial on my own, and at the end of it, have nothing because I have no one to sustain me, no one to hold me, no one to pull me up. Listen, my family does what they can, but they can't get inside like the Lord can. Because God is the only one that knows the deep things of my heart that nobody else can access. You may have something buried so deep inside, and God wants to help pull it out and heal that part of your heart. Just because the bloom is gone, there's hope to one day bloom again. There is hope to go from this to this if we trust in the Lord. Listen, God doesn't take away every trial in your life. A lot of times in Christianity, a lot of people preach that if you just serve the Lord, you'll become a millionaire. If you send in $1,000 to this televangelist, you will be blessed, and your house will be paid off, and everything will be wonderful. That's not how any of this works. But I tell you what, when I've gone through the hardest, most horrible times in my life, I had God beside me. And you can step on me, and you can take a knife, and you can jab, you can kick, you can punch, you can do whatever you want, but at the end of the day, I still have a God taking care of me, and I can feel that, and I know that. That's the difference between me and somebody not living for the Lord. That's the difference between you, Lisa, and somebody not living for the Lord, is that when you go through trials, you can hold His hand, and you're not alone. Because even though you got family around you, you got You got Christian next to you, and I think Christian would take a bullet for you in a heartbeat. I know he would. He loves his mama. He absolutely loves his mama. But even he can't fix the things inside you. But God can. I love my husband. He is the best husband. Out of all the husbands, I'm sorry, if your husband is the best husband, we'll just have to agree to disagree. But I have an amazing husband. But even he can't fix everything for me. He will certainly try, but he can't fix it all. Because he's human. He can't take away pain in my heart. He can't give me peace. God can give me peace. And there's been many times where I've had to rely on God because I didn't feel peace in anything else. The Bible talks about peace that passes understanding. For years, I never understood that verse. I just thought it was weird words together. It didn't make sense. And it hit me it was really just a couple of months ago. And I was reading that, peace that passes understanding. That's peace that doesn't make sense. That's peace in the middle of the storm. Storm's raging all around you and you still have peace. All right, God's got this. I'm good. I'm good. We went through this last couple of years some trials that most people would have buckled and never gotten back up. But we had peace. Sure, we falter at times like anybody else. But when I ask God for peace, He's there. And so your gloom may have faded. Things may have been terribly horrible and wrong in your life the last few months. But God has a plan for you. You are not finished yet. He's not done with you. He's not done with you. There are things that He has called you to do, things that He wants you to do, and He says, listen, just hang on. You're going to get through this storm. Just hang on. I'm going to walk with you through this, and then we're going to do that thing that I called you to do. How many of you have a dream? You have a dream like one day I want to own this house, or one day I want to become a famous singer, or one day I want to do this or that. How many of you have some kind of dream? I want to be successful in my business. I want to, there's something I want to accomplish. Let me see your hands again. Most of you have a dream. If you don't have a dream, you need a dream. Because God will fulfill that dream in some way. Now listen, when I was a kid, my dream was this. I wanted to be Sandy Patty. Anybody know who Sandy Patty is? She would sing. She was a Christian singer, and I grew up on her tapes. A couple records. Don't judge me. But she would sing this song, Unshakable Kingdom, and she had this like opera type voice, and she'd be like, I mean, it was just like, and it was beautiful, and I thought, I'm going to be Sandy Patty. And my name's going to be in lights. The closest I got to my name being lights was it was in chalk once. And that was pretty exciting. Outside of a thrift shop, I got to sing there a couple weekends. Aaron and I, we got to sing at this thrift shop. They had us come every weekend and play some music and have the guitar case open. People throw money. It was awesome. Our name was in chalk. And I took pictures because that was the closest I ever got to lights. And that was my dream. But that's not my dream anymore. But God has fulfilled the dreams that I do have. And He is fulfilling those dreams. Sometimes it looks a little different. I am not Sandy Patty. I'm not. I never became her. I never became famous like her. I never recorded my own album. But I have got to do some things that God has let me see pieces of the dream. I have got to sing on a CD, and that was a lot of fun. Never done that before. And, I got to do that once. I got to go with a friend to record a CD and got to see the whole thing, and I got to sing back up on a CD, and that was pretty awesome. But God has more for me still. And right now it's not singing. That's not my dream right now. I love singing. I love doing it, but that's not my dream right now. But God is fulfilling other parts of my dreams. He's not done with me yet, even though this last 2 years I thought, oh my gosh, what else can happen? Some of you know some of the stuff that we've gone through last week. What else can happen? But God is taking care of us. Greater things are yet to come. So I just want to close with this. And if you would all just stand with me. If we can put on something soft. Listen, I don't know what you're going through. Nobody gave me, nobody came to me and said, you should preach on this because so-and-so is struggling with this. A lot of people think that pastors preach sermons and that's what happens. And most of the time we're just preaching to ourselves before we preach to you. That's really what's happening. And so maybe you're going through a time, and I don't know, but maybe you're going through a time right now where you feel like the bloom is faded. You feel like everything has gone wrong and there's nothing left and you're just this empty plant with no flowers on it. Maybe this is you today. You feel like everybody else looks like this. Because we compare a lot. Women, we're really bad at this. I don't know about guys because I'm not one. We compare a lot and we look at everybody else. And this is what we see. And if I could point out to you people that I see this in, and they would look at me and go, right? So if I said, Elaine, this is what I see in you. This is you. You got it all together. All the blooms are beautiful. Everything is going right. Everything is wonderful. There's no struggles, right? She's going to say, absolutely not. That's not my life. Because we see this in everybody else, and this is what God sees in us. And this is what we feel like today. And so I just want to invite you this morning, just for a few moments. Listen, I'm not going to do anything really weird. Not going to do anything crazy. I'm not going to, we don't have a box of snakes in the back. We don't get those out, when you come up to the front. But if you feel like you're this empty flower, like the bloom is faded, and you're not sure where to go from here, would you just come to the front and kneel somewhere and let God minister to your heart just for a few moments? Because what I don't want is I don't want you to leave feeling like this. Because what comes from that is the fruit. What comes from that is the good stuff. So if you need some good stuff, this is where you should be. So I'm going to make the call again. If you feel like you're here and you need some fruit, you need to see something change in your life, you need to see God bring something valuable out of your life. God, I pray for these who have responded, Lord, today. Lord, I just pray, Lord, that you would touch them today, God. Show them the value that you hold for them. Lord, that you have even greater things to come than the blooms. Lord, you have even greater things planned for them. You're not done with them. You love them. You want to surround them with your goodness today, God. I pray, Lord, that they would leave this place today feeling full. Lord, feeling like you've touched our hearts, God. Lord, the emptiness, God, that comes so easily. I pray, Lord, that you would fill them to overflowing with your joy. Fill them with your peace. Surround them with your presence, Lord, as they leave this place, that they would feel your presence, God, the rest of the day as they go and they have dinner with their families and they sit and they relax, Lord Jesus, that every breath they would take, God, they would just feel as if you had your arms around them, God. We thank you in Jesus' name. All right, before we go today, we want to honor the women of this church. How many of you are mothers? You have children? Okay. How many of you have some dogs or something, some cats that you might need? All right, Lynn's got her hand up. Yes, I do. All right. So what we want to do is we want to honor all of you today. So first I want to have just the mothers come forward. If you have children, I want you to come forward. And you can face the audience. That way they can see your beautiful faces. Let's give these moms a hand for how awesome they are. All right, now I would like the rest of our women to come forward, and we're going to give them a gift as well, and we're going to honor them as well because some of them are spiritual moms. Some of them are just wonderful women in our church, and we honor you as well. All right. Does everyone have one? We got some over here. Over here. All right. Claire, come on up. We're going to give you a gift too. And then what's your name? Yellow shirt. What's your name? Come on up. We're going to give you a gift now. We've got extras, so we want to honor you as well. Ariana and Cody. Marlena. Where's Allie at? Oh, there you are. My own daughter, you know. All right, let's give all these ladies a hand.